you could please find a seat so that we can begin this session, that would be fantastic. Professional sport reaches and inspires millions of fans worldwide. Football reportedly has more than 3.5 billion followers and 250 million players. Sports appeals to people of all ages. A recent global survey found that nearly 60% of adults surveyed want to participate in more sports. So you take a mega sporting event, and that should create a real opportunity to engage more people in physical activity. Yet research linking the hosting of a sports mega events to increase levels of physical activity is mixed at best. My name is Luisa Baldini. I'm a former BBC correspondent, and I'm delighted to be leading this conversation on how stakeholders can leverage sports mega events, or SMEs, not to be confused with small and medium-sized enterprises in this case, to improve health by increasing participation in physical activity locally and globally. We will be drawing on WISH's report and key recommendations to progress and develop global knowledge, scale the potential health impacts of SMEs, and support effective planning and delivery of SME legacy for future events. So I am delighted to introduce to you our panelists today. We will be in the presence of Dr. Sheikh Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani, who is the Director of Public Health, Ministry of Public Health here in Qatar. He will be joining us shortly, but he is busy finishing off with another panel. We're going to make a start without him, but hopefully you'll see him joining us here on stage. But who we do already have here present is Marie. I never check the pronunciation of your surname, which I normally do with everyone. We got caught short for time, so please come and introduce yourself.
Good morning, everyone. I am Marie Barsac.
Barsac.
Impact and Legacy Executive Director at Paris 2024.
Thank you very much, Marie Barsac. And we also have Mickey Matheson, who is an educator, a 3-time Paralympic gold medalist, global diversity, equity and inclusion advisor, Asian representative to the Valuable 500, and she was involved in the Tokyo Games of 2020. Welcome, Mickey. And we have Dr. Fiona Bull, who is one of the report authors and head of the Physical Activity Unit, Health Promotion Department at the WHO. Welcome, Fiona. Please take a seat next to me. So before I get stuck in with the questions myself to our panelists, I just want to remind you all that this is an opportunity for you to ask questions of the panel. So please, when the time comes, put your hand up. A microphone will hopefully find you and you can put your questions to them. If you are feeling a little bit shy this morning, then you can submit your questions through the app. You see this QR code behind us. Well, you can scan that from your phone wherever you're sitting in the room, and you can type your messages in. And if you are watching us on the live stream, good morning to you. You can also join in. You can submit your messages through the app, so please just type them into the chat box, and hopefully we can get to your questions as well. And before we start, I just want to thank Aspetar, the first specialized orthopedic and sports medicine hospital in the Gulf region, who are the partner for this and 3 other sport and health-related sessions at WISH today. So let's get started. And to you first, Dr. Fiona Bull, what exactly do we mean when we talk about sports mega event legacies, and how does the focus on increasing physical activity really fit in?
Well, thank you very much, and a very good morning to everyone here and to my co-panelists and those online. A very good question. What is a sport mega event? And you've described the one that is about to start here in Doha, the World Cup, as one of them. Strict definition would be they're large, they're global, they involve a large number of participants, spectators, and obviously all associated with them. They're fixed duration, and they incur a large cost. They could be single sport or multi-sport. It's a pretty generic definition, but it sort of gives us at least the scale of them. And they are, I think, importantly there, this sort of time-limited specific event, whether it's one day, 1 week, 1 month. They do begin and end as an event. And the second part of your question is, how do they fit in then to physical activity promotion? And we've had the privilege of the first panel session just next door about an hour ago. Many of them may have joined Mo Farah and the panel there. We have a big agenda. The global agenda is to provide more opportunities for everyone of all ages and all abilities to be active for the health, the mental and the physical health benefits. But we've got a long way to go. And the question, I think, key to this session is, how can the opportunity, the reach, the power of those big sport mega events be mobilized, leveraged to help us with that agenda? And your opening remarks suggested that, in fact, we think it will, and it probably could, but we're a long way short from demonstrating that and delivering it. And I hope we get into that in more detail.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. Marie Balzac, you're in charge of impact and legacy for the Paris 2024 Olympics. What are some of the main goals then for Paris around increasing physical activity and healthy behaviors more generally?
Thank you for a question, because I love talking about legacy. Our legacy will be dedicated to the promotion of physical activity. It is quite strange, because when you're organizing games, you are supposed to promote sports, Olympic sports, Paralympic sports. But we decided to choose the promotion of the physical activity as a first step of the promotion of sports. Because if you're not able, because of your healthy condition, to practice sports, you will not enjoy it. You will not continue to practice any sports you will discover during the Olympic and the Paralympic Games. This is what we have seen. This is the conclusion we made following the discussion with past OCOGs. We had a great experience with colleagues from a different country organizing the game, like London or others. And we have this conviction that the situation today of the sedentarity in the world, and in France in particular, is very alarming. We are working with lots of medicine. They are engaged with Paris 2024, and their message was very clear. Please promote physical activity, and secondly, promote sports.
So when we really look at your goals, what do you want to achieve?
So what we decided to do is to launch programs to people where they are, because it's also complicated when we promote sport to say you should go to a club, so you need to find time in your agenda to go to the club. So our programs are more simple. We are launching programs, physical activity at school, physical activity at work, physical activity in the city. And so we are engaging the stakeholders that has the responsibility to put this opportunity to practice more physical activity. So that's why we launched a program in collaboration with the Ministry of Education. It's about 30 minutes daily physical activity at school. This program has been an experimentation for 2 years with a great success. 30% of French schools develop these programs. It's a programs every day in the curriculum of the agenda of the kids at school. And the government announced the generalization of these programs last summer. And so since September, every school in France is proposing physical activity every day to the kids. We're going to change the life of those kids from 6 to 11 years old. This is our best program at that stage, and we really want to show that it is possible to change the sedentarity situation, and specifically for the kids. We launch also other programs in the companies, for example. Last week, or 2 weeks ago, it was the week of sports in the companies. We launched a challenge between our sponsors. We have like 20 sponsors engaged in financing the games, and we ask them to dedicated programs to propose 30 minutes of physical activity to their employees. Why 30 minutes? Because it's a recommendation of the WHO, and nobody knows about it in France. So it's also a way for us to make a plaidoyer about this recommendation, 30 minutes. And also, it's a way to have experimentation, laboratory example in our sponsors company to the rest of the company in France. It is possible. It's just a question of will, of decision making. You should do it, and we have 2 years to demonstrate that it is good for the company itself because it develops productivity, and it is good, of course, for the employees because they are in better health and they are more happier to work in the company. And the last program we launched, it's moving more in the city. It's called the promotion of active design. I don't know if you heard about that concept. This concept is to propose some urban planification to promote physical activity in a spontaneous way. How the people are going to move in the city by going to this park because there is some bicycles and they can charge their mobile practicing bicycles, or there is some athletics lines, and they can play to make run between friends because there is those lines. It is really simple. It is not very expensive, and for all those programs we produce some guides, active design guides for cities, active design guides for companies, active design guides for the schools, because it's also a key element to encourage more active schoolyards, and it's the way we encourage all the city in France to move more and to encourage physical activity to the inhabitants.
Marie, thank you very much. I'd really like to find out more, but I want to hear from Mickey Matheson first. And Mickey, whatever age you are or Healthline, base status, more or less, we all know physical activity is good for us, as we've been hearing there, children, adults. But how do we ensure that programs are encouraging participation for all? Do you think there should be specific programs targeting specific groups of people, like people with disabilities?
Yeah, because, the sports is good, like it's a well-known fact, but we have a program for everyone. That doesn't mean, everybody will come. And for the people with disabilities, especially for the kids with disability, they have more hurdle to overcome to access to sports. So there are so many things to hinder the participation with sports, like the lack of accessibility or lack of the infrastructure, lack of the equipment, lack of the understanding of the parents who are overprotecting, like, oh, that's too dangerous, or we have to make sure the people with disabilities are comfortable enough and feel welcomed enough for all of the programs. So.
Well, on that point, I think we all know by now that Qatar has pledged to make these games, this Football World Cup, the most accessible World Cup, and we've talked a lot during WISH about accessibility and design and how it can be made so much easier for people with disabilities. But what was your experience from Tokyo 2020?
So all of the sporting facilities and around the venues are accessible, and they did really good. But from the station to the access point, from the parking areas to the venue, like if you go there are something might be in the way, and then it's the accessible means not just the venue. Accessible has to be from point A to point B, everything, all the way. if there's something in between, that's not accessible in my mind. But most of the sporting organization, like, oh, this is accessible. But for us, if we cannot go to the venue, even if we get to the venue, the information or digital accessibility is another thing too. So like if we cannot access information, that's not accessible. So like we have so many different aspects of considering the accessible.
Thank you, Vicky. And going back to the point about physical activity and targeting specific groups, if I could put that to you, Marie, for Paris, in Paris, are you targeting specific groups? I mean, we've heard about children, we've heard about adults. Those are two captive audiences, if you like. Then you've got the more movable audience with your plans for active design in cities. What about people with disabilities?
Yes, we have dedicated program for people with disability to encourage sport practice. It is also an objective to leave a legacy for our Paralympic Games. It is very important. The program we launched is about creating para sections in clubs. We are asking clubs to open para section because the objective is to offer opportunities to people with an impairment to practice several sports close to their home. Because at the moment, if you're with an impairment, you have only one or two choices close to your home, and it is not enough because it's not necessarily the sport you want to practice. And because the Paralympic Games will showcase, of course, Paralympic sports, we need, before the Games, to create those para sections to welcome the people that will enjoy para sports, and they will want, we hope, to go to a club, and they need to find an open door. So our program is to train trainers to know how to coach people with an impairment, and it is also to train the members of the clubs to be Paralympic to welcome people with an impairment. It's not easy for everybody, and so we are working on that. Those two training programs are launched at the moment at the scale of Paris and Le Seine-Saint-Denis, which is the suburb of Paris where there will be sport competitions. And the government announced last July the dissemination of that programs to 3,000 sections in 3,000 clubs all around France. So it was also very important to see that the government is going to help us to disseminate for every people with impairment in France.
Fascinating to hear your plans there in France and Paris. Thank you so much, Marie. Well, I can see that we have Sheikh Dr. Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani now has arrived, so if you would care to join us, please. Just to remind you that Dr. Al Thani is Director of Public Health, Ministry of Public Health here in Qatar. Welcome. Thank you very much. I hope you know our panelists, Dr. Fiona Bull, we've got Marie Balsac and Mickey Matheson as well. And I'm sure we all want to hear more about the plans here in Qatar. Now, one of the main issues that was raised in the WISH report and in the literature in general is the lack of evidence linking the hosting of sports mega events to measurable increases in physical activity in the population. So firstly, I just wanted to know, has Qatar really promoted the physical activity side of things, and how have you done that?
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Aurora. And apology for my delay. I was in another panel, and the other panel.
Yes, I explained to the audience. They're very forgiving.
Yes, I hope that we can cover this hopefully, and we can pass this point. So for now, as Qatar, as you can know, Qatar is a sport country. Qatar is a country love to take care about sport and conference. This is done for some time. Qatar have a big challenge with physical activity in 2012, and we did the stepwise survey with the WHO and proved to the country, and Her Highness recognized the report that we need to do actions for sports and for physical activity and for obesity. So for 10 years now, we are trying to create different approaches to lower obesity and add physical activity. That time, we don't have anyone, like an example in Qatar for triathlon. We don't have an Ironman. And magically, when you put the right report, people wake up and they have a time of waking and they say, why we are not doing something? And we had first Ironman people, we have the triathlon, we have the team for bicycles. We think have created differently. And every time we speak, say, we should be ready for 2022. So I remember when I was young, in 1986, when I saw the World Cup, and I don't know who remember the time that I like Maradona, Platini, Rummenigge, and Zico. So this one, it made me love sport, and from that time, I loved football, and I learned from football how to make the teams and work together in teams, and you are not alone, and push me to a different level. We are hoping in Qatar that this start even before the finish of the World Cup, that people are creating different ways to have physical activities. And you can see if you walk in Qatar, many parks, many things are happening to make the country look different. And now people are checking all the time their health and their steps. But our goal now that we want to go to the vulnerable groups in this physical activity. There's always 15% of people, whatever you do, they will not do physical activity or sport. And we are trying to put plans for them in this one. So part of the plans, which I can speak later, is how to work with them, connecting them through apps and communication digitally. But I would like to give the chance and speak back later. Thank you.
Thank you. Just a couple of questions on what you've said. What was the issue with people not exercising enough, do you think?
Yeah, we have a clear challenge in Qatar for exercising. You know, our country is a very hot country. You cannot go open air for many months. The ladies should stay with their hijab, and how to walk with hijab and sweat. It's difficult for them sometimes to do that time. And sometimes it was not lovely to see people walking with sport. But the leaders of the country support people saying we don't want to go to sport. We always use shoes to make you have a chance to walk anytime, to make it easy for themselves. So the leaders support people to change their cultural challenge. And the environment, they created many malls, many closed areas that people can walk, even air-conditioned open air, if you can see, have a chance. There's some areas in Qatar, they have air-conditioned and open air that you can feel in the hot weather. This is helping people to move more, and the technology, you know, all these Fitbit and helping people. But still, there's people think that this is not for them. Physical, it's a job for the...
So it's a mindset
set
change.
mind. Why to make a bicycle? I am a paperman or something. They don't take it. But it's changing a lot. If we have time to change it, but we are moving, we are getting the chance during the World Cup to have more volunteers from the young generation that they will ask to do sports during this time that make them change and connect. The success that we are doing now, we have many times that the sessions, not only a membership, the old style membership, 12 months, you can go for a session with your friends and enjoy the bicycle or running or aerobics and come back. This is helping people even a minimum, doing at least a minimum, if they are not a sport champions, to do a minimum on this part. And we are hoping, with the support and the guidance from the leadership and the support from the government to give discounts for these people in whatever they want, it will change forever.
So
Yes.
subsidising access to sport and physical activity. Have there been specific programmes that the government's launched in conjunction or in anticipation of the World Cup to encourage people to be more active?
Yes, subsidizing is happening. We have some dedicated places in the government that are very low cost sports, but some people like to go to the prestigious places, but there's a subsidized areas, and they are inviting people to do some sessions free for different types of exercise. Maybe you will fall in love with it and you like it. But our next plan is to find who are not coming. Some people like it when it's subsidized or it's free. Some people are not appearing. And these are the people that you want them to go forward. Because if we change them, we can change the second generation for the same family.
But have you been using public service advertising? How are you trying to communicate with the whole population to try and encourage them to be more active?
Yes, we do different things. One of them, we did sometime awareness campaigns on the advertising, billboards, and Instagram. Then we use the influencers to be in this part. And the third thing, we have the sport day. His Highness himself and the leaders of the country, we all of us go to work. And as you know, our sport day is in the middle of the week, Tuesday. So you can never leave the country to enjoy a long weekend in any place. So this is other thing that pushing people to keep the sport active in the country.
And how do you think you will be able to measure the effects of these health promotions and these strategies related to the upcoming World Cup?
As you mentioned, this is a challenge for evidence-based things, but we have doing the stepwise survey directly in January after the World Cup. The stepwise survey will test how much the obesity went down in the last 10 years after the World Cup, and physical activity increased. So this will be very important to tell you, compare Qatar before 10 years and now. This will be directly after the World Cup. We are proud that in Qatar we lowered road traffic accidents in the last 12 years 82%. And we are hoping now obesity has went down because of diet, bariatric surgeries, and awareness campaigns that we did. But physical activity, it should be done in a different way, because some people are moving to be physical, and we have extreme sport people, but we want to balance between the extreme sport people and the people who are not doing at all anything.
Thank you very much, Doctor, for giving us this overview of the situation in Qatar and the run-up to the World Cup. Right, audience, you have heard from each of our panel members, so please, if you have any questions for them, please do put up your hands. Or submit your questions through the app using the QR code. Don't be shy, this is your opportunity. We have a question here, thank you, sir, if we could get a mic to you. Please let us know who you would like to direct your question to, if possible.
Thank you very much. I'm Karim Khan, and I had the privilege of working in Qatar from 2013 for 3 years, and I'm familiar with some of the advances, and congratulations. My invitations for Dr. Bull, if that's okay, for her just to share the 3 take-home messages from the document, because we don't all have time to read the way these academics do and spend all their time in the ivory tower. And so what are the 3 messages from that document for us, Dr. Bull?
Thank you very much for the question. And first, let me extend my thanks to the co-authors and the support that we've had in developing the report, which is out today and available, of course, online at the WISH website. The 3 main messages are the 3 of 4 recommendations in it. The question that the report addresses is how can we leverage the sport mega events like the World Cup, like Qatar, like Paris, to increase physical activity for all those health and mental and physical health benefits. We need to share, message number 1, we need to share more of the learnings from past mega events, current mega events, and the plans and work of future mega events, so that the next ones, multi or single sports, are learning and doing the very best. The fundamental question we're still doing is showing the evidence, actually showing we've increased, and we really look forward to the results from the steps being done here, steps survey being done to monitor, and of course I believe Paris has got evaluation in place. Number 2 of the recommendations is that we would like to harmonise the methods and measures used, because one of the historic problems is that we've got different methods, different measures, different instruments, different outputs. So even while I say physical activity, what exactly are we measuring? 3 times a week, 30 minutes a day, 150 minutes, an hour a day? There are different measures, and many in this audience would know. But it's beyond just the measures. What about the attitudes? And because a legacy can involve policy change, program change, what exactly should we be measuring and how? And we don't want to keep reinventing that wheel. So we need to develop those measures. And the 3rd would be let's demonstrate and use them. So we're really looking forward to the audience and the future mega event franchises, holders, host cities, using the recommendations, using the indicators, so that the sum total of those 3 will be a better knowledge base. Because these are expensive, your opening remarks were, these are expensive. Host cities are beginning to question, and yet the promises are, the potential is, of improving health and well-being, and the economy and development, accelerating what was planned, and perhaps initiating and catalysing new things. But we do need to finish the circle, show it, so that the next one can learn and do better. And if you'll allow me, can I say the 4th one?
Please do.
Capacity building. This isn't easy. It's not easy to do this. It's high expectation, high stakes. So we do need to build the capacity in the sport, in the health, in the urban design, in the research, in the public policy. So the 4th recommendation is let's invest in building the capacity. And all 4 are clearly interconnected. Thank you very much.
Thank you for that question, and we were definitely going to get Dr. Bull to summarise before the end of the session, but good to hear those 3 or 4 main takeaways for now. And just if I may, on one of those, you talked about harmonizing methods and measures. On that, I think very much linked is, why is the evidence of physical activity not stronger? Is it due to ineffective approaches, insufficient assessment of these strategies, or both?
You've said it, it's probably a combination of both. But first and foremost, we have to set the goal and target and have a commitment to doing the evaluation. And unfortunately, in the past, that's not been there. So there's a lack of evidence around previous sport mega events. Then when it is done, I've mentioned the diversity of measures, diversity of metrics, diversity of when you measure. And if we're only measuring just after an event, well, that's a measure of just after the event. But legacy is long term. We all strive, and certainly WHO brings the population-based and prevention of these diseases and promotion of health. So what about 1 year later? What about 5 years later? And indeed, a quote from 2012, Lord Seb Coe, colleagues will know I do turn to this quote quite often, but it took 10 years to bid and deliver the games. I think you can relate to that here in Qatar. And he quote, it's 10 years to deliver the legacy. And I think it's that perspective, because it's the lasting impact that is promised to the communities, and we can deliver it if we set that commitment.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bull. Another question from the audience. I saw we've got a gentleman with his hand up there in the middle. Please let us know if you'd like to direct your question to anyone in particular. Thank you.
Thank you. Vijay from Inside Qatar. My question is to Dr. Mohammed. Some of the stadiums which have been built for the World Cup, there are a lot of areas where physical activity can be done. That's part of the legacy of the World Cup stadiums. I just wanted to know, since it's already open, since Qatar has done a good job of getting your stadiums ready much before the event, has it been frequented by members of the community? Are they using those facilities? Thank you.
Thank you. Most of them, thank you so much. This is important. We are proud of our stadiums and how we allocated them in everywhere to be near to the very busy areas. So the stadiums will be, everyone can use the parks. Some of them just finished, the stadiums in the last few months, and there's some protocols for them. But the parks are dedicated for them, and we are trying not just to keep them, even to attract people to come. They attract people to come. It's not only just it's free and come. There will be some events, some competitions inside these parks to go forward. And we are so proud that through the World Cup now, it's the best relation between the health and the sport. We didn't have this relation strong before. They only ask for emergency during the games or on big exhibitions. But now we are connecting not only for COVID, we are connecting to do more healthy areas. And this sometimes frustrates some people, but we want less healthy habits, and part of it to encourage physical. But one thing, again, I would like to say, when we open these places, always the most popular 50%, they enjoy it, and we take photos that it's used and everybody is happy, and use it in media that everybody is happy. This is fine. But again, I would like to make sure that the other 50% who are not or using physical activity, they need to go at least once or twice through a systemized visits, through maybe institutes. Everybody in the institute should go, who like physical, who don't like physical. Everybody should be pushed somehow to a minimum of doing some sport and enjoy the legacy of these stadiums. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, a question here from the lady in the front row. Thank you.
Alaikum. My name is Safiya Al-Mashiri. I'm Qatari. I work in the NOFA Rehabilitation Center. I'm the HSE and Fire Safety Manager. I often go around, my question is going to be directed to all four, because it would be very selfish to direct it to one person. I want the advice from all four of them. But my question basically is, one of the biggest challenge I find working is when I try to get people more active at work, because health is part of what I do, and it's the physical, mental, and emotional well-being, and I like to focus on the three. When I try to get people a little bit more physical active, I tend to find the obstacle of they have an emotional barrier. There's an emotional or like low self-esteem or overworked or stress, or just they don't have that charisma, they don't have that energy to get up and physically move. you know? So from your guys' advice, what approach can I take with my employees to get them a little bit more active, to get them like, get up 30 minutes, you know, take the stairs instead of the elevator? What, you know, just, that's basically it.
Have any of you done any work around that?
I can give you the example about our building in Paris 2024, what we are doing for our employees, because we need to be exemplary on that field. We are promoting that, so we need to do it for our own employees. We launched, for example, our new concept of a nightclub, day nightclub. It's a day club, in fact. It's every Monday at 9 a.m. To 9:30. Again, 30 minutes. And there is music very loud in the entrance of the building for the employees who are coming to work. There is some lights, you know, like in nightclubs, and lots of music, and all the employees are coming, and they are quite encouraged to dance. And so we are dancing for 30 minutes, all of us. I can show you some videos of that. It's quite amazing. It is not a performance. It is not sports. It is not any even physical activity. They don't even know that they are participating to our strategy to move more in the building. So that's one of example. We also put some elements to encourage the stairs instead of the lifts. In the stairs you have lots of messages. We are using nudge communication to make people laugh when they take the stairs. There is like a mirror, for example, with messages to see you should look if you are not something in your teeth. Well, it is just to make fun, to encourage people to take the stairs because they're gonna laugh together. We also put some sports material at the exit of the meeting rooms, because when you stayed 2 hours in a meeting room, just after you need to move more. And so we put some table tennis, some punching ball, some for those who are not so sporty, things you have to
Darts.
do darts, exactly. So it is games, it is nudge, it is well, any possibility to make understand that you need to move more at work, and we have this message of 30 minutes of physical activity every day around the building to make this enter in their mind.
So, thank you very much, Marie. So sort of hiding physical activity, or really communicating it in a subliminal way that people aren't thinking, oh, I've got to.
No,
exercise.
It's exactly what you say. We have, of course, the sports room. We have every day some coaches to help people practice sports. But before that, before practicing sports, you need to move more. And so that's why we are encouraging those moments who are not so sporty, but just are important to take into consideration that you feel better because you have moved more.
Thank you. Mickey, do you have any thoughts on this?
Yeah, like I have 2 boys at home, and you know, they love to sit in front of TV and play games. But one time I had what's that called? The step counter, like the pedometer. Yeah.
Pedometer.
Yeah. When I introduced that, and then so 10,000 steps equals 1 hour game time, and then
so incentivizing sports or activity.
Yeah, it worked too. And also, doing some physical activity alone is like, sometimes it takes a lot of courage to do it, like especially when you're really tired or stressed out. Like, oh, like I can do it, start tomorrow, not today, put it aside. But if you do with some friends, then like you kind of feel obligated to be there with them, do together. So like sometimes the team effort is really helpful through my experience. So that could be something, yeah.
And in the UK, I know there are a lot of running clubs, for example, for that reason, because a lot of people just can't quite get out on their own, but if they know they're going to meet a group of people, that makes it easier. Dr. Mohammed, did you want to add?
Yes, thank you. As you know, many of you know, Nofar is addiction center, a 5-star addiction center that people can come welcome anytime. It's supporting them. But this is very important because, as you know, these people should enjoy the endorphins and dopamine from sport because they were enjoying it from addiction. So it's a must for them to change their habits because they are getting the dopamine from a bad way. or their pleasure. So this will help them a lot, and I support what was mentioned about is exactly if you choose them between incentives, like if you do this one, I can give you PlayStation or Nintendo. If you don't do that, you cannot take it. Or I can give them, you have two options, either to walk for 1 hour or to get 1 hour a bad, tough, another session. So he would choose the sport rather than the other one. And one tough but good too. I mean, awareness, healthy practice, but it's not very lovely. So he would choose always, he's smart, and he say, I'll take the sportman. So this is very important that they should come to you with maybe low stamina. They should go out from Nofar with higher stamina. And inshallah, more innovative ideas will come from even your people when you discuss it with them. Thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, so in fact, for employees.
Make events. You should make events. I said 9 to 9:30 every week. Everybody should attend for 1 hour or something and push this one. Their card will not change to the right color. They cannot leave the building without finishing these meters. We want healthy employees because they are a role model example. I cannot accept doctor to smoke in a facility and be a bad role model. I cannot accept employees who are very fatty and they don't care about themselves. They should do something. Thank you.
But definitely maybe more difficult to incentivize. I mean, how you'd have to think about how you can incentivize them apart from the fact that to make them understand they are going to feel better. But Dr. Fiona Bull, you wanted to add to this as well?
Oh, I'd be happy to add some and extend some of the earlier comments. I think your challenge is faced by many workplaces, so it's a great question. And I think the answers given were quite simple. Make it fun. I think we have to reframe how physical activity is perceived by many. As your earlier comments mentioned, it's not appealing to all, and so we're all trying to reach those who are less active. So what is it? What do you have to do? And making and reframing what it is and why we do it. So we can be active in small ways throughout the day, in ways that really we don't need to call them exercise or sport. It's moving enjoyably. I think another thought that came to mind to your particular question is involve the employees. Because if they own the programs and the opportunities, even run those and share the running of the programs, this has been proven to work in workplaces. Leadership. If you're asking people to do something, show that others are doing it as well. And then I really must mention making the environment. It's actually how we create and make it easy for everyone in all ways. And I think we have to respect that people want to be active in different ways, when they choose to and where they choose to. So I'd respectively disagree with making it an obligation at certain times to do it. But the incentivizing is possible, and the workplace is one where it works quite well. The relationship of the employer to the employees, it can be time in paid work. It can be some other bonuses that are provided, opportunities that are given, incentivize walking and cycling versus using the car, for example, or using the new public transport systems when they're effective and accessible and suitable. So we have to take a holistic approach, and that's the population-based approach. Certainly it's about the programs, and using nudge theory is a really exciting opportunity, but making the places easy, accessible, and fun.
Thank you very much. Well, that was a very successful question which got everybody talking. Thank you very much. Yep, we have another question here in the front row.
Hi, my name is Paul Simpson from the BMJ. So when it comes to legacy, there's a lot of focus on the host city or the host country, but I'm also interested in what the responsibility of the sports owners are in guaranteeing legacy.
Well, I'd be happy to open up some responses on that. I think it's an excellent question, and I thank the co-author for bringing this important point up, because it is often thought it's the responsibility of the city, but there is also a relationship and a responsibility of the national governments and those who own, provide, or enable the sports, sport franchisees, if you will. What I think the report has identified is there's a really powerful lever that we're not yet using, and that is that it's a requirement in hosting a games. We've seen the IOC take leadership. They are now requiring, I think Marie, you might speak to this, in that they're requiring that you plan and deliver a legacy to increase sport and physical activity participation. It's putting it on the agenda at the bidding stage, as early as that. And I think there's an opportunity for other sports, single and multi-sports, to consider that, to change how we approach this. It's not a nice to have later, considered in the latter stages, just before delivery or even after. It's way too late then. So the very earliest point is in the bid stage. And I do think that the IOC, and I believe the Commonwealth Games, is also looking to this. And I really invite all international federations of sports and sports associations to think about how they could do that as well.
And off the back of that, it'd be interesting to know, was it part of the bid stage?
Yeah, for the bid stage, we really wanted to have this legacy in sports. But as I said, we move a little bit from sports to physical activity without leaving sports. Because both, as you understand, are connected. And of course, we engage all our stakeholders in our strategy. And for the Sport Federation, we encourage them to develop new opportunities to practice, turn to fitness and to more accessible practice. For example, we ask the Handball Federation to develop HandFit. Basket, it's basketball fit. Football, it's football fit. They are using balls, their own balls. But with fitness exercises, it's more like Pilates or yoga, but with the ball. It is mainly for women, but not only. But it's something that we ask them to develop until the games and to continue after the games, because we are explaining to the sports movement that we are working on that physical activity promotion, and the clubs should be the one who are welcoming those new people who wants to practice physical activity and sports, because you're going to begin by fit handball, for example, and after you can practice handball. That's it. So that's a strategy. The federations are quite aware about that, because they didn't wait for Paris 2024 to think about having new offer to more people, and an offer not for competition, but an offer for just enjoy, take pleasure with other people, and to have this social cohesion capacity that sports can promote.
Thank you very much, Marie. And Dr. Mohammed, do you know whether the physical activity aspect was part of the bid for the World Cup here, or is it something that came afterwards?
It came afterwards. It came afterwards, physical activity. But the goal of doing the World Cup was to change Qatar forever. And we hope even after Qatar won the World Cup, the world has changed. And now we are moving to 48 teams in the world. It's the last time World Cup was with 32 teams. So the world has changed a lot through this one. And we hope that it pushed a lot to change our style. You can see now the obesity is much less in Qatar. So this is really, if I checked all the World Cup winning countries, the Olympic Games winning countries, after always this, they change forever. They become a real country that the world can trust forever. They have some problems, yes, but if you check them all, they are all changed forever to a better level. So we hope, as I said, I respect the way that people, when they bet, they should make the legacy, because this will not happen only for the countries winning. All the nominated countries should be on the same level. This will grow the number of countries that change in a big number, more than one country or two countries win. Thank you.
So for you, the legacy of this World Cup is going to go much further than just looking at the improvement to physical activity in the population. For you, this is totally game-changing, if you excuse the pun.
It's game-changing. Frankly, even yesterday I dreamt about the World Cup and we won the first match. I hope that we won the first match. Okay. The other thing, thank you, inshallah. Maybe you don't forget, we won in 1981. We were the second in the world in football, under 21. We won Brazil 3-2. We won England 2-1. They had lost in the end from Germany, but went to the final. Till now, our people know, and because of this legacy in 81, it gives us the strong to win again the Asian Cup in the last 3 years in UAE. And this legacy in World Cup will make us prove that we are coming to welcome the world in the coming 20 years again and again. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Dr. Bull.
Well, I'd just like to pick up on the point you're making and illustrated there about the reach beyond the games and beyond the host into the wider community and indeed global community. And WHO is working closely with Qatar and the Ministry of Public Health on ensuring that the legacy does this. And it's not just on the physical activity behaviour. Let me give you another example, and that is in knowledge. And if we can increase the knowledge and skills internationally on promoting physical activity, that can be a legacy. Investing in the research that drives what we're doing is another legacy that can be game-changing in the world. And we really need that game-changing because, as I think has already been said several times, the levels of physical activity globally are worrisome. And COVID has exacerbated that. 1 in 4 adults do not meet the recommendations. It's higher in women than men, and we've heard that being discussed. There's an absence of data on people living with disabilities, and I'll repeat that. There's an absence of global data on people living with disabilities, and yet we're all here and we're all talking about the importance of this. This gap must be fixed. Children, I think we've had those data shared in the WISH conference as well. Again, a gender difference. Girls are less likely. So we've already got the data are showing us we have to put more effort and more resources into those that need our help, our support, and the opportunities to be created. So that would be people with living with disabilities, girls and boys, and indeed older adults as well. But investing in research can show us how to do that, prove the effective intervention so we invest well, and build the capacity. And I know you're doing that through football in the extended work of the legacy, and indeed the Generation Amazing Foundation's work is extending that capacity and the facilities. But I think we've got much more opportunities, and it's another perspective on legacy.
Thank you very much, Dr. Bull. We have a question here, please, if we could get a microphone to the gentleman. Just getting the mic on. And please, if you could let us know who you'd like to direct your question to, if there's someone specific.
Yes. Hello, everyone. My name is Kürşat. I am blind, and I'm a co-founder of WeWalk Smart Gain Technology, patented technology. Thank you for choosing such great topic, promoting physical activity. We all know how it is important because we were in lockdown during the COVID period. It's also so important for 253 million visually impaired people. Unfortunately, you don't see them in the streets, in the social life, because most of them still under the lockdown. They are sitting at their homes. And such events like FIFA World Cup is really great opportunity to invite visually impaired people into social life or other disability groups. And I wasn't aware that Qatar, you did great preparation for being accessible during this FIFA World Cup, and I'm so happy about that. My question is to Dr. Mohammed bin Hamad Al. Preparing yourself is just one part of the way, but other part is letting disability groups know about your preparation. So how do you target disability groups? How do you invite them to World Cup? And because I believe all disability groups deserve to hear such a great preparation for being accessible. Thank you.
Thank you for your question.
Thank you so much, and thank you for creating this new institute, organization. You inspire all the world, but what you are doing, thank you so much for you. For Qatar, this is very important for us, this ability, and we have learned this through different ways. Even when we get the accreditation for public health from USA, they were caring a lot of disabled people in any institute, and we need to change our system to correct it for disabled groups, and we learned a lot from that. The same thing now for all the Committee, they are caring about disability people, and they are trying as much as take special lines, special guidance for them for different disabled. We are still learning to make it, to master it. We are getting calls for people, they want a better system for that. And we hope with your guidance, we can make everyone happy during the World Cup. The good thing, we know that we don't know everything, but the good thing, they are very now executive. Any question is answered, any problem, they are trying to fix it in 48 hours as much as they can. So we are hoping that if you have anything we are missing, because you know this challenge more than us, please, we are welcome. And there is a dedicated email or phone call that we can contact them and say things that are still missing. This is the way that we keep learning. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed.
Can I
yes,
make a comment?
Please do.
Yes, I would like to underline that sometimes the games are also a responsibility generally, not only for developing physical activity, but for example, in France, the organization of the Paralympic Games was a moment where we realized that we are not totally accessible. And so we, with our stakeholders, decided to launch projects because of the games to be more pushy on developing total accessibility. I give you two examples. One with the Olympic and Paralympic Village. This village will be an urban area in the suburb of Paris, and this area will be totally accessible for every disabilities, sensorial, blind, the words come in French, every disability. And this is quite rare to have this objective in an urban development plan, and it will be an area with schools, with sports facilities, with homes, with hotels, with restaurants. So it's quite interesting to show that if we want to do it, we can do it. The Merit Paris, the second example, lead also project in that sense. It's called the development of accessible bubble in the city of Paris. It means that in some areas in Paris, it's 100% accessible for everything. The shop, the theater, the cinema, the restaurants, the home, the buildings, etc. It is interesting because the Merit Paris take this objective because of the games and to develop this total accessibility in the city. And Paris, as you know, is not well known about great accessibility. So it is a way to demonstrate that it is possible. And we, as a NOCOG, we clearly are communicating to other cities in France to do the same and to develop those accessible bubbles. You can't do that at the leverage of your city because you don't have enough money. Please do it at the level of an area, of a quarter in your city. And let's see what's happening. That's some example to develop accessibility.
Thank you very much indeed. We've got more questions, so just briefly, Dr. Bull.
Very, very briefly, but these are excellent examples, and I'd just like to extend an invitation and highlight the opportunity for innovation in this. And you're an exemplar of the innovation of making it easier and safer for people with visual impairment to walk. We need to apply the technology, and we're at WISH, the Innovation Hub. We need to identify and address the physical barriers and use technology. And secondly, we need to engage more in the training and in the clubs and the places that we are active. We held a seminar last year on promoting physical activity to people with disabilities, and we heard very clearly there aren't people like us in these places, and there aren't people like us in this industry. So I think we've got an obligation those of you in academic environments, those of you in training in the professional areas, we need to look at the whole system approach. It's not just the programs, it's actually the whole system. And there's a real opportunity to celebrate this on the International Day of Disability, and we will be celebrating with Qatar how sport, football, can be provided to all. Thank you.
Can I add something really quick?
Yes, please do.
Because a lot of the times, making things accessible is an afterthought.
Yeah.
Everything is 80%, 90% done, and then okay, so now I invite you guys, the people with disability. I would like to hear your thought, but at that point, it's almost too late. If we were involved from the beginning stage, then it could have been done much better, and more cost effective. But if you want to fix at the last minute, it doesn't make everybody happy. So from the beginning, put everybody on the decision-making table is one of the things I would like to add.
Thank you very much, Mickey. Important point about accessibility by design right from the early stages, inclusion of people with disabilities in the design process, not doing things retrospectively, which doesn't work nearly as well. Thank you. There's been a gentleman with his hand up for a while in the middle there, so if we could go to him first, please.
Thanks very much. Is that on? Yeah. So my name's Matthew Philpott from a public health NGO called Healthy Stadia. And I'm interested in a question concerning our two panelists who are involved in the hosting of events, one being the World Cup, obviously, and then the Olympics. I'm wondering what attention you might have paid to what we call in public health the social determinants of health. So these are what's known as the causes of the causes. So how can we actually have an environment that then gives people an opportunity to be physically active, to have a better diet, to make sure that they're not consuming tobacco products, etc. So we would look to perhaps housing, we would look to transport systems, we would look to employment and training opportunities, and a universal proportionality in terms of wages as well. So some of these wider determinants that can then help to affect more lifestyle-orientated programs that you might be running. So I'm interested whether either of you have given any consideration to these wider social determinants as an output or outcome from the hosting of these tournaments.
Dr.
It might be
Mohammed?
that Fiona Bull might
Thank you.
comment.
Thanks so much for mentioning this. This is so important, and this is the base of our public health and part of our goal for the Sustainable Development Goals 2030 with the United Nations. Social determinants was so important to make the world more aware and wise how he can do things to make a better country. It's not only some great people who are doing small effort in some place. It should be politically recognized and balanced resources and increased capabilities. So this is one of our bases with the essential elements of public health. These are the two things that we build on them all our strategies. And this is something that we report on it to the cabinet every 3 months for health and other categories. And we are hoping that this can be more spread to other countries and the experience from the World Cup, how this has improved during the World Cup all the last 10 years, and how this will help us to target what we want in the SDGs in 2030. I recommend that whatever Qatar is doing now, we can share the experience with any country is going forward, maybe next World Cup, USA and Canada and Mexico. We are ready to help and share in this to identify how much they are moving forward, especially if you go to the next World Cup, it will be in different 3-style countries. So they will never have the same social determinants of health equally. So it's very healthy that before we go to the World Cup, some of them support the others to lower the cap for the 3 countries that are welcoming the world. And it's part for them not only to have solidarity in football, to have solidarity on the most important issue for the world now for SDGs is this social determinants of health. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mohammed. Marie?
Yes, this is an important question, as you said, and what we are doing with lots of humility, because we are not expert in the OCOG, but that it's working with those who know. So that's why working with the medicine that I said before was very important to us to benefit from their experience, not go to ways that are not going nowhere. And what they give us this advice to showcase some examples and to use the power of communication of the games to talk to people that you never talk generally. So that's why we are using our communication capacity to put on the agenda the promotion of the physical activity. I will give you an example with the cities. When I said that we are promoting programs to cities to make a program to help their inhabitants to move more, we are asking them to propose physical activity for free in the public space for dedicated population, because we know that we have to target specific population very far away from physical activity, like people with an impairment, women, elderly people, people. Yeah, those three categories, for example, is very important, and it is working. In fact, if you do it, and the cities who are experimenting that, they are doing for once a week, once a month, and some of them are going to do it once a week. They are specifically in Seine-Saint-Denis, where there will be sport competition. They are developing this program very largely, and they were not very confident at the very beginning of the program. So sometimes you need to launch experiences, and it can work.
Thank you very much, Marie Barzac. We just have 5 minutes left, so some short questions and short answers would be fantastic to get round as many people as possible. We have a lady with her hand up in the middle.
Good morning. I'm Miss Amina, graduate registered nurse in Qatar. First, I want to tell you, I'm sure that all of us, we need to work in your company because of all your programs you are doing. Second, for my question, actually we listen too much about engagement of people for the sport, for the activity, for the physical activity, how we engage kids, special needs, all things. What about the healthcare workers, providers? How we can and what we can do for help them, especially that the healthcare providers, they are the one who's explaining about the importance of the sport and the exercises for the people. They are the one who's the most people are under stress, especially pandemic, for example, COVID. So from your experience, what you did and what we can did and how we will help them to engage them in the physical exercises or emotional exercises to be less the stress for them or everything for helping them.
So thank you very much. So any targeting of specifically healthcare workers?
Well, of course, healthcare workers especially should have support to be active in their lifestyles as a workplace. Hospitals, healthcare centres, primary healthcare settings are an excellent place for patients, but also for the advice to be given and supported to employees, all healthcare workers. I think many of the things you've heard today would apply and be applicable, and particularly to the earlier question on the occupational setting, how we can enhance, support and enable employees to be active. Hospitals and healthcare settings should have a policy, time off for working physical activity, support and incentivize, encourage, reframe it, make it easy. All the things we were saying are applicable, but I think warrant extra effort and prioritization, particularly as we all understand the experience of COVID over the last 2 years, and they've been at the forefront along with other essential workers. They warrant this. Often because it might get neglected themselves, as their passion and commitment to their work means they sacrifice the time that they should take for their own health. So the solutions are similar and the priority should be given.
Thank you very much. I hope that has gone some way to answering your question. Are there any more questions here in the audience, please? Because we've just got a few minutes left. If anybody can put their hand up. If not, I wanted to just address the issue of funding. We haven't talked about funding. Who should be funding all of these initiatives, these programs? We've talked about already where does the responsibility lie, but specifically with funding, can we ask you, Dr. Mohammed, where the funding's coming from?
Yes. Thank you. Thank you. This is a challenge for the world because in many countries have a lot of political parties and some political parties stop this from happening. But in Qatar, as we are connected properly, government and people, our side that the government is supporting and creating whatever we ask for parks, for things are created. Whenever us we're subsidizing is happening. And now we are hoping this funding with, of course, again, an evidence proving for the government the value of your health worker example to have a clubs, the value of your people to start physical activity. They will know that it's investment. It's not only a charity, it's investment. And they will go push forward to invest more. Now in Qatar, we don't have clubs. Now we have in the Ministry of Sport Club. We have in a hospital sport club, in the primary another one, but not sport. It's a place that you can make physical, not a sport club, but this great people that they can practice this during their work. But of course, there's some debate on this. But we believe that the funding should come, usually in Qatar or many countries, the government should be aware. People cannot connect all together and have enough fund without the government support, and an additional small fees on the people when needed, when they are doing extreme, better work and getting this one. I hope that from this one that everybody will connect the dots and we get to a point that we keep moving forward to a better world. Thank you.
And on that note, we are going to end this panel as we've run out of time. Thank you so much to our panel for discussing the legacy of sports mega events, especially when it comes to physical activity. I'd like to thank Dr. Mohammed bin Hamad Al Thani. I'd like to thank Dr. Fiona Bull, Marie Bazak, and also Mickey Matheson. And thank you to you, our audience, and to those of you watching. Shukran, thank you. Sorry, I know you want to...